Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever found yourself, reading history or maybe watching a film set way back and you're really admiring some figure or their achievement, whatever it is, but then you hit this detail, something they did or believed that just makes you stop. It feels really off by today's standards. Maybe even, illegal or horrifying now.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And what's fascinating there is how often this happens with figures we really draw inspiration from. We kind of build them up in our minds, idealize them. But
Yeah.
the reality, when you look closer, is often, well, a lot more complex, sometimes uncomfortably so.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. This very human thing of judging the past, people in the past, using our modern viewpoint. We want to explore why that happens and, what it means for how we understand history and maybe even how we see ourselves today.
It's almost like an inevitable clash, isn't it,
Right.
between eras. Our current moral framework, which itself has evolved massively, it just runs smack into the realities and, frankly, the accepted norms of a completely different time.
Yeah.
It's more than just, different clothes or technology. It's fundamental shifts in ethics, rights, how society was structured.
And that tension creates this paradox, doesn't it? How do we hold both things? How do we admire someone for their contributions, but also condemn certain actions? Like, take someone like Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher
Yeah.
emperor, right?
Hey.
His meditations are still so inspiring for many people.
Yeah, hugely influential.
You'd think someone so deep, so wise would be this beacon of virtue, but then you look at his actual time as emperor.
And that's precisely where the paradox hits you.
Yeah.
His private thoughts, his writings, they offer such profound wisdom on self-control, reason, duty. Yet, his reign involved things that seem jarringly contradictory now.
Mm-hmm.
Persecuting Christians, for example, or overseeing some pretty harsh imperial policies. It really highlights that gap, doesn't it, between the idealized image we might have, maybe based on those writings, and the complicated, messy reality of a person wielding power in that specific historical
So
context.
why do we judge so readily? Is it just, I don't know, us being arrogant looking back?
Well, part of it might be expectation. When we draw inspiration from someone, we perhaps subconsciously expect a kind of perfection from them, a moral consistency that, let's be honest, probably doesn't exist in anyone, especially not across centuries with changing values.
Sure.
We focus on the heroic bits, the inspiring quotes, and maybe forget they were actual human beings, flesh and blood, living in a radically different world with different pressures, different blind spots. They had great strengths, sure, but also flaws, capable of incredible things, and also,
And also terrible things sometimes.
exactly, capable of actions that seem atrocious to us now. The challenge is holding both those truths together.
And it feels really important not to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, as the saying goes. We need to acknowledge the flaws, the unacceptable parts, without just dismissing everything they achieved or contributed. History would be pretty empty otherwise.
Absolutely vital. And this whole line of thinking, it brings up a really interesting point for us right here, right now. What if, say, 100 or 200 years from now, future generations look back at us,
Yeah.
at our time, and they evaluate us by their standards, which might be completely different again?
Oh, that's a sobering thought.
Think about things we accept as normal today, our consumption habits, maybe our environmental impact, certain technologies. Who knows what might seem barbaric or bafflingly unethical to them? Looking at it that way, it sort of argues for a bit more humility, maybe a bit more indulgence when we're judging the past. It forces us to see our own potential blind spots.
Which leads to an even bigger question, I think, one that this whole discussion really pokes at. We often have this underlying belief, don't we, that humanity is constantly moving forward, progressing, getting better, more tolerant, more balanced. But is that actually true? Is progress like a law of nature?
That's a crucial question. And the historical record suggests, well, absolutely not. It's not guaranteed, not a law. Yes, cooperation often yields better results collectively. Societies can advance. But this idea of inevitable linear progress towards, say, greater tolerance or balance,
Yeah.
history just doesn't bear that out consistently. There are periods of incredible advancement followed by periods of regression, lost knowledge, societal shifts backwards by our current measures. Think about the centuries after the Western Roman Empire collapsed in parts of Europe. Literacy, public health things declined significantly. Progress isn't a smooth upward curve. It's messier, more cyclical sometimes.
Okay, so putting all this together, what does this mean for you listening right now? The next time you read about some historical figure or some past event and you feel that modern judgment kicking in.
Well, connecting the dots, I think it encourages us to be more critical about the standards we're applying,
Mhm.
to really think about them, and to appreciate just how complex the interplay is between, basic human nature and the specific society someone lived in. History isn't just a list of dates and facts. It's also kind of a mirror, reflecting how our own values have changed and are still changing.
And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a little unsettling. If future generations might judge us by their standards, and if that forward progress isn't actually guaranteed, not some natural law, what does that suggest about the choices we're making right now, today? What things that seem normal or acceptable to us might be seen as deeply wrong down the line? Something to definitely mull over until our next deep dive.